Yo, what is good, Knicks Nation? Welcome back to Knicks Media. This is Richie, and in this video, we'll be talking about Nerlens Noel and break down his 2021 season for the New York Knicks. This was a huge part of the Knicks team right here, is this man, Nerlens Noel, filling in for Mitchell Robinson, becoming a huge defensive part of this Knicks team. And hey, Tom Thibodeau absolutely unlocked a beast within Nerlens Noel, and I'm excited to break down him. If you guys did not know, I have a whole series here on Knicks Media where I break down each player on the Knicks and go over their season in 2021, go over their stats, go over what they did well, and go over what they need to improve on next year. And if they're free agent, such as Nerlens Noel, we'll talk about if he will be on the Knicks next year. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. But before I do so, if you guys are not subscribed to Knicks Media, make sure you do so. And if you are interested in following me over on Instagram and Twitter, that is at NYKnicks_media. And if you guys enjoyed the video, please do not forget to thumbs it up. With that being said, let's get right into it. So, Nerlens Noel signed a contract for the New York Knicks to a one-year deal, so he is a pending free agent. He's a player that is very interesting. He was a lottery pick. He had so much potential coming out of Kentucky, and he was a defensive anchor for a long time, and his problem has been injury. He's been injury prone throughout his career. He was not able to really unlock his full potential, and he's been a journeyman. He's been all over the league, and he comes to the Knicks, and Tom Thibodeau absolutely unlocks his potential because he needs to be in a defensive type of system, and that's exactly what the Knicks are doing here. And when Mitchell Robinson went down with an injury, he had to become the starting center, and he filled in the role for Mitch in a very good way. We definitely missed out on Mitch on some aspects, and I'll get into it, but Nerlens Noel did so much for this Knicks team on the defensive end, protecting the rim, having great hands on defense, not great hands on offense though. And he was just, this is a crazy stat right here. Ready? I'm going to start off the video with this. The only player in the league to average more than 2 blocks per game and more than 1 steal per game. So he was definitely a great defensive player, was just all over the place, and he deserves a lot of credit. He was a huge part of the Knicks team. The defensive end, we held the opponents to the least percentage from downtown, the least percentage from the floor, and we held the teams to the least amount of points scored. So we were really good on the defensive end, obviously, and Nerlens Noel had a huge role in that. So let's get right into his stats from 2021. Nerlens Noel averaged 4.1 points per game, 6.4 rebounds, 2.2 blocks, 1.2 steals, 61.4% from the field, and shot 71.4% from the free throw line. So Nerlens Noel, man, look at these stats. I mean, he really padded the stat sheet. 2.2 blocks and 1.1 steal is what comes out to me the most. His ability to match you at the rim, no one's dunking on Nerlens Noel. Maybe he had 1 or 2 guys get him, but more often than not, Nerlens Noel, especially in the clutch moments, how many times did he have a crazy emphatic block at the rim and we're just going nuts? We're like, what? Nerlens Noel, like, he is such a beast. I love everything that he comes to the Knicks, his timing at protecting the rim and going up there and meeting him, and someone trying to dunk on him and he's just like there, and he's like, hey, not in my house, bro. I love everything I saw from Nerlens Noel this season, man. It's going to be interesting to see. Will the Knicks re-sign him? That's a big question, because Mitchell Robinson, we don't even know his future on the Knicks. Unfortunately, he had the injury where we don't even know his, potential. I'm really high on Mitchell Robinson. I hope they re-sign him, but Nerlens Noel is still young. I think he's going to turn 27, and if we don't really re-sign Nerlens and we don't re-sign Mitch, then who's our big man? Are we going to draft a player? Are we going to trade for a player? Are we going to sign someone? So the big man is going to be interesting. I would love to re-sign Nerlens. I would love for him to be our long-term backup center. I feel like he is somebody that proved to be a great defensive asset. So let's get into his strengths and what he did well this season for the New York Knicks. The first thing is he filled in for Mitchell Robinson. Nerlens Noel was not the starting center. Mitchell Robinson was, and for Mitchell Robinson to go down with 2 crucial, terrible injuries, Nerlens Noel needed to step in, and he stepped in such a big way. And the one thing that he did not do well that Mitch does well in is rebounding and catching those alley-oops. But what Nerlens Noel did so well in is blocking and protecting the rim, and that's something that Mitchell Robinson always did well in, and Nerlens Noel filled in the shoes maybe even more than Mitch ever did, because his ability to just absolutely block you. I mean, even the little floaters people come up with, swats it away emphatically, spikes it, volleyball spiking it everywhere, getting into the passing lanes, forcing turnovers, being the anchor of the defense. I mean, he was such a big part for this Knicks team on the defensive end. He was an elite rim protector. Another thing he did well in is his defensive instincts, his ability to he sees the ball, he pokes it loose, he gets into the passing lanes, he blocks it. I mean, how much more can you talk about his defense? Because that's really the only thing that he brought to the Knicks is his defensive ability. His offense was a little skeptical. He did not do that well. We'll get into it. But on the defensive end, Nerlens Noel really fit the Tom Thibodeau system beautifully, because what you need to be doing as a center in a Tom Thibodeau defense, you need to be sitting in the paint and basically really good communicator. You need to be able to let people know when they need to switch, call out the screens, rotate when someone's driving. You got to be able to shadow the best player, double team when necessary, even blitz on pick and rolls. And he did that such a great way. At sometimes even when there was a mismatch and he had to guard a point guard or guard a forward on the perimeter, he did pretty well. Sometimes you would get into the passing lane, he would knock the ball loose because he has such crazy long arms. It's like these crazy, arms, and he just gets into those passing lanes. So shout out to Nerlens Noel. His defensive ability was through the roof. Now let's get into some things I would like to see him improve on if he is on the Knicks next year. His hands on the offense, man, how many times have the Knicks fed him down low and he fumbles the ball? Probably it feels like over 100 times, but that's exaggerating. But Nerlens Noel definitely needs to improve his hands. I mean, it is butterfingers. He doesn't really have a good grasp of the ball. His offensive game was not there. We definitely missed. This is where we missed Mitchell Robinson the most. The alley-oops. Every time I felt like somebody tried to throw up the alley-oop, he definitely converted some, but there were some times where it was too easy and he dropped it. He fumbled the ball. He did not, finish that easy two-handed dunk, and that's where we missed Mitchell Robinson the most. So if he can improve on that, that would be great, but I just don't really feel like that's in his game. That's not something you need to improve on. It's either you have it or you don't. It's either you have the instinctual ability to go up there and catch those high, octane alley-oops. It doesn't really seem like he has that. Another thing I want to see him improve on is finishing at the rim. Sometimes he was underneath the rim and he would put it up and he would miss it, and when he would get a little rattled, he would, if there was somebody in his face, he would not really finish through contact. But his offensive ability was nothing we didn't really rely on. So it's not like a big deal. All of our offense really came from Julius Randle and RJ Barrett and D Rose and all the shooters like Burks and Reggie and Quickly. We did not rely on Nerlens Noel on the offensive end at all. So it's not really that big of a deal. His role on the Knicks was to, protect the paint. And then another thing I would like to improve on is his rebounding. He averaged 6.4 rebounds, which is not that bad. But there were some times, man, especially in the playoffs, where we gave up way too many offensive boards. We need to be able to crash the defensive rebounds, and because that's what finishes off a possession. You can play the best defense possible, lock them down, force them to put up a jump shot, and they miss it, but then they get an offensive board and it all goes out of the door. All that effort you put on defense for that entire possession doesn't even matter because you cannot crash the rebound. So definitely Nerlens Noel needs to crash the rebounds better. That's another thing we missed out on Mitchell Robinson. I feel like he's way more efficient getting those boards. So that's really my thoughts on Nerlens Noel, what he needs to improve on. So now let's talk about what is his future on the Knicks. Like I mentioned earlier, I just want to go over it one more time. I feel like the Knicks should re-sign him. That's my thing. I feel like it's hard not to re-sign him because what he did on defensive end is way too valuable, and we know the injuries is crazy in this league, so why not have depth? So let me know your thoughts. Do you guys want Nerlens Noel in the Knicks next year? Do you guys not want him? Do you rather us draft a center and develop him? Do you rather us trade for somebody or sign a free agent? He is a player that has a lot more potential. I feel like he is somebody that should be on the Knicks. But shout out to Nerlens, man. You did a great things for the Knicks this season. If you are not here next year, Knicks fans will always remember you for a great run in the playoffs. So yeah, appreciate you, Nerlens Noel, and appreciate you guys watching this video. Make sure you like if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in my next one. Let's go Knicks. Peace.